Toronto real estate market reignited in the month of October. We just got the data. Let's break that down to show exactly what's happening and is it really as good as it seems? Let's take a look. I'm Mike Ouzas. I'm a realtor here in downtown Toronto. If you ever want to book in a call to discuss what's actually happening in the ground level, and just a quick hint, it is very property type and location specific right now in Toronto real estate. You can click on that first link down below. And over the next 6 weeks, we are accepting New Year's strategy sessions in order to help you get set up for the new year in case you're considering making a move in 2025. So again, click on that first link down below. Sales are up, prices are up, the market is back. Well, let's actually break down what exactly that means, because it's not so easy to just jump to that conclusion right away without looking at the data. And one thing I can tell you on the ground level is that when working with my buyers right now, we have been seeing multiple offers on some specific properties in certain price ranges. In the low $1 million range in the city, and some of the best properties in that price point are getting attention. There are a lot of properties also currently sitting on the market that definitely need work. And what we're also finding is that if properties are a little bit overpriced, they're not selling. And that's something that's super interesting to see as we go along. The other thing to point out is that all these news articles always talk about the Greater Toronto Area. So if they say Toronto is X, they're actually referring to Greater Toronto Area is X, which is quite a big area to cover. Average price year over year up 1.1% and months of inventory at 3.68. If you've watched any of these videos in the past, you'll know that months of inventory number is the key metric to watch moving forward, especially if you watch that last video where new listings typically drop off a cliff after November. Overall, those active listings are up 25% from last year and sales up 44% from a year ago. That's huge. Basically, last year, we had 4,600 sales, was pretty much what we had in September as well. Take a look at Toronto proper, pretty much the same story, except sales are up 36% instead of 44%. Average price, though, up 3.4%. And I know it doesn't seem like that much, but when your average price is around 1.1, a 3% increase is about $30,000. So quite a big jump there in price. Active listings also up 24%. And inventory, just like the Greater Toronto Area, is pretty much balanced across the board. If we take a look at the monthly sales data, and this is where this months of inventory number, as mentioned, is super important, is as months of inventory has been increasing in the last couple of months, we saw a big drop in October. And generally when we see these drops happen, or when months of inventory starts to get lower, and keep in mind, that's your active listings divided by sales, we do typically see pricing follow along with it. If you see here back November, December into January, February, where we saw that months of inventory basically pretty much where it's at right now, compressed going into January, February, we did see pricing jump quite a bit from where things were in November into where things ended up in May and June. So that was about an $80,000 swing there, just as months of inventory started going down and the competition was definitely getting hotter in those timelines. We did get a jumbo rate decrease in October, and that plays a big factor into pricing, as the last 3 months we've seen the average price tick upwards. And it does make sense that if the rates do come down on both the variable side and the fixed side, so keep in mind these overnight rates are all tied to the variable side, we generally see pricing increase as people's buying powers typically increase. But more importantly, and I think this is the one key that's incredibly important moving forward, if we start to see some stability in the interest rates, so if the rates either are going down or remain stable moving forward, I believe that's when we'll start to see price increases. I don't think we're going to see increases right away if rates are still a little bit volatile. Once we start to get that stability, that's when I do believe we will see price increases. So it's not enough to say that rates are down, prices are going up. I think we need to see rate stability before those prices do start moving upwards. And taking a look at this benchmark price, everything's staying pretty much in line: condos, townhouses, semi-detached, and detached. Let's take a look at the property types and what they've been doing. So we're gonna go through detached, semi-detached, townhouses, and condos. And one thing that really stands out in the detached market is that the months of inventory dropped significantly, almost back into a seller's market. We were balanced all through July, August, September at over 3 months of inventory, but in October, 2.81. So that puts us closer to that seller's market. And this is what we'll be watching moving forward, because as those months of inventories get tighter and we go more and more into a seller's market, we generally start to see more competition on these properties, as they are not making many more detached properties in the city without taking one down first. Average price up to almost 1.8 CO8, which is quite a jump from July, August, and September, kind of putting us back in line with where things were back in June. If we look at semis, and semis were the hottest properties in the city over the course of 2024, and I do anticipate that's going to be the case, especially to start out 2025. That is that entry-level price point, typically between 1 and 1.5. They are back under 2 months of inventory. When we see semis under 2 months of inventory, that typically means one thing, and that is that competition will most likely increase significantly for these properties moving forward. Average price is up, highest we've seen in the last 5 months. And I do believe if we continue to move forward with these new mortgage rules coming into effect in December on the 15th, that price point between 1 and 1.5 million will create even more competition for these properties going forward. Same thing for townhouses. That average price is also up from September to October, and months of inventory dropped from 4 to 2. And that's not insignificant, especially when we're starting to see 102 townhouse sales in the month of October, which is almost double what we saw in September, even though the active listings are less. So that's a super important metric to move forward. Townhouses are a great step up for condo buyers. If you can't quite get to the semi-detached property, townhouse would be next in line. Let's talk condos, and condos have been the talk of the year when it comes to how slow they've been throughout 2024. One thing that we have seen is that inventory has been starting to get absorbed. We've seen over 1,000 sales, or 1,100 sales for that matter, highest we've seen since June, and a big jump from what we saw in September where nothing was really moving. We're back down in 5 months of inventory for the city as a whole, and that's pretty significant because that's going from 7, which is an ultra buyer's market, into 5, which is basically balanced. I would still argue it's still relatively a buyer's market. It definitely is a buyer's market out there, depending on the product. If you are looking for a condo, here is what's super important to know is that if you're looking for a 1-bedroom condo, there's tons of them on the market right now. There's a lot of inventory of 1-bedroom condos, but the buildings that have nicer units, loft styles, those are still moving. And if you get into bigger properties like 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom units that are priced well, those are selling relatively quickly as well. So we have been seeing an uptick in sales in the bigger units, especially because those price points have come down quite a bit from where they were before. And if you can get that extra space for a relatively better cost, then it does make sense to grab one if that's what you're looking for. Now, these last 2 charts, Toronto CO1 condo and Toronto CO8 condo. Let's start with CO1 because I think this is what we're going to watch moving forward. We have seen sales uptick from September to October, and we're back to kind of where things were in May. Now, being just over 5 months of inventory, if this number does continue to get lower, we may start seeing prices follow suit. But 5.3 months of inventory, still very much a balanced to buyer market. Now, CO8, and this is one of the biggest drops in months of inventory that I've seen. 911 listings, 91 sold in September, 10 months of inventory. That's an incredibly high number. We saw it back down to 6 in October. So pretty much kind of in line with where things were in May. And one thing we saw in May was there was still a touch of competition for condos, even though it was very slow throughout the summer. So just wanted to give you an update there on CO1 and CO8. So there you have it. Those are the market stats for the month of October, and quite a big change from where things were at September. And I'd argue actually July, August, and September, which kind of seemed to be all sandwiched together. We are looking a little more like that May, June, kind of where things were at that point of the year. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below on where you think we're headed for Toronto real estate. I'm Michael Ouzas. Thanks for watching.